Hey everybody, welcome back. I just had the most incredible conversation with Kat Keinast Kitchen, who is originally from Estonia, and she is going to share a little bit in this upcoming conversation about how she escaped her narcissistic abuser with her 2-month-old son, and she fled to save her child's life and her life across the world and ended up, just having to do something that I think is everyone's worst nightmare and starting all over again. She's so brave and she's such an inspiration in terms of giving back. She believes that the best thing we can do to help other people survive is to share our stories of survival. And she's created this brand called Untamed Hero, which has like hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram and other platforms where she shares stories and anecdotes and quotes for the survivor of those who've been through some sort of abusive situation, domestic violence, just anyone who's been through hardship and trauma. She is quite a force, and I really think that you will be inspired by this conversation, and I hope you'll stick around and listen and continue to support our work. So, without further ado, welcome to my conversation with Kat. Hi, I'm Jessica Buchanan, and this is How to Survive Survival. This podcast is about what comes after the crisis, after the moment that changes everything, after you've done what you had to do just to get through. Each week, I sit down with people who faced hardship and made a deliberate choice about what to do with it. People who've turned pain into purpose, who found a way to make meaningful contribution because of what they survived, not in spite of it. Because survival isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of who you become next. Welcome to the show. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of How to Survive Survival. I am really honored and so excited to be talking to someone that I have been admiring online for a very long time, Katre. And I can't believe she had time to talk to me today and that she's going to share a little bit about her journey of how she has survived survival. Kat, thank you so much for joining me today and just generously sharing your story with us.
Oh my gosh, very kind words. Thank you so much. I feel equally, I admire you and everything you've been through and more so what you're doing with it. So thank you for
Mm,
having me on. I appreciate it.
of course. So maybe you can just give us a little bit of, whoops, hold on a second.
Yep.
My husband's in Abu Dhabi and I had put this on Do Not Disturb and I don't know why it broke through. Um, Mika, go ahead and edit that part out. Let's start over again.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a little bit of just some context of how you ended up creating Untamed Hero, which is a huge online platform for survivors.
Yes. So my son is about to turn 8 years old. And when he was 2 months old, just shy of 2 months old, we escaped abusive relationship while living in America.
Mm,
And through several months of kind of hiding and escaping, we
mm,
ended up going back to my home country to keep us safe.
yeah.
And from there, I kind of unraveled like what just happened and just trying to obviously process everything. And then I started learning more about who that person was. And I realized that I'm not alone in this. And then when I was reading, about, for example, a narcissist or a psychopath, it was
Mhm.
checking off every single thing,
Mm,
which is terrible, but also made me feel super validated and like I
yeah.
wasn't making this up or I wasn't
Yeah.
crazy that this is what happened. And then I was, I can assume that people who listen who've been through something like that is that you become like the expert of this topic that you go
Hmm.
through because
Yeah.
you go through this phase and you just research everything, which I did. And then I started kind of sharing online a little bit.
Uh-huh.
First I was like I didn't want to put my face anywhere. It's just
Yeah.
kind of this process you have to go through on your own terms. Like,
Hmm.
nobody has to show their face ever, but if you decide to, you get to decide when that is. And then at some point I was like, you know what? Uh, he's not controlling me anymore. And so here I am. And so I
Yes.
just honestly, with Untamed Hero, it been such a blessing, and it's such always such an interesting thing to say. Yes, it grew quite large,
Right.
so it is sad that so many people can relate, but also so great that there's a space where we can be and kind of
Right.
share our stories. And so that's kind of how it grew. And I really, the way it grew is that I posted a lot of
Yeah.
content because I was like, oh my gosh, this,
Yes.
and that's how we are here today.
So when you started posting, was it more so for you to, were you seeking community, or did you already have this feeling of like, okay, I've figured some things out. I've learned, um, about what gaslighting looks like. I've learned about, what it means to be in a narcissistic, abusive relationship, and I want to help other people, or was it kind of all of that?
Yeah, that was definitely all of the above. And I remember when I first was sharing online or trying to actually I wasn't sharing yet. I was looking for answers because when I moved back to my home country, Estonia,
Hmm.
at the time,
Hmm.
I was I felt so alone, which I know you can relate to because
I
like not
do.
many people around you have gone through what you just gone through,
Right.
and everybody's just living their life, which they
Right.
should. And I'm like,
Right.
what the? And so I remember finding this podcast where I learned about childhood trauma and other things. But I heard this woman talk, and I like reached out to her on Instagram because back 8 years ago, it wasn't what it is now on Instagram,
Yeah.
like how much
Yeah.
we have.
Yeah.
And I was just like sharing, I just trauma dumped a little bit in her
Yeah.
like message because I was just so blown away what I learned. And she responded. She was very, very kind. And then I kind of realized I understood like people who started liking my posts and sharing their stuff online. Like I was like, okay, maybe I can help people with
Hmm.
just being there because I realized how much somebody who understood what I was going through, how they could support me just by listening sometimes or
Right.
whatever. And so then kind of grew into this, okay, maybe I can help by paying forward what I've experienced. And then, obviously I try to do as much as possible. I'm kind of finding my new groove here on Untamed Hero right now currently, but also having community, speak up
Mhm.
and share because that's how we're stronger. That's how we learn. It's not, yes, textbook stuff is good, but
Right. Right.
this is where we relate.
100%. I mean, I so resonate with your story of hearing this podcast because that's really where I started I think where I really started moving forward in my healing journey was when I found this book actually called Surviving Survival. And I was like, that's interesting. I've never heard that term before. And then I just doused myself in the information. And it was the first time I had found a resource where I felt like somebody understood what I was going through. And it
Mhm.
made me feel, and I've tried to get in touch with the author to, with no luck, and because it was written a long time ago. But anyway, just like to find a resource or to find a name for whatever it is you're experiencing, that is like the first step in, I think, feeling like that maybe there is a way forward. Because I know for me, there were so many times where even though our survivor journeys are different, um, I just didn't know if I was going to survive because the crushing isolation and loneliness of what I had been through, it felt like it was going to swallow me up.
Mm.
And so you say that the biggest support for a survivor is often another survivor.
Without a doubt.
So
I
tell
mean,
me more about that. Yeah.
yeah, good question. And also, I mean, your story is so powerful. So, I mean, people are watching your podcast, so I know they're aware of it. It's incredible. Um, and and I'm also curious actually to ask you, like, how
Hmm.
did you manage finding other survivors of something that's not so common?
Yeah.
And I'll answer, and then you can
Okay. Yeah.
share a little bit. But
Ooh, I like this back and forth thing.
yeah, because I'm like, it's just so empowered. That's how
Yeah.
we, learn. But the therapy is great. And
Yeah.
at first, I felt like I wasn't really finding this therapy that I needed. Like I met
Hmm.
with like this domestic violence or the violence against women center in Estonia, and I met with some people who were super great, like
Sure.
really kind. They were doing the right thing, right? They wanted, but what I was going through, like I wasn't getting, like I was still. You stop sharing because you're like, oh, never mind, like you don't get it. And then I really realized as I was on Instagram, that's where we've
Hmm.
grown, is that there's people who exactly know. Like I can write a very specific situation from my trauma or the
Hmm.
abuse that I went through, and there will be like hundreds of people with the literally same thing. So it's like that is the most empowering thing. And what I've found actually is that the more I've shared my story, listen, everybody doesn't have to do that,
Yeah.
the more it's almost been like therapy to me. Like, yes, I've been to now
Yes.
therapy that's better, like EMDR was just
100%.
outstanding for me.
Yep.
But like just constantly, you're just like getting it out of, and essentially you're getting it out of your body, right? Like
Yes.
we're talking, I'm sure you
Yes.
can relate because you do
Yes.
podcasts and you talk.
Yeah.
So it's like you're constantly processing. And like whenever I talk to somebody and I go back into it, I really go in there. Like I
Yeah.
really feel like after
Same.
podcasts, I'm super flushed red. Not because
Hmm.
I'm not panicked, but like it's coming all out again.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it's just speaking to other survivors. It's just sometimes there's just things you don't have to convince them. You
Hmm.
don't have to explain things too
Hmm.
much, which is
Hmm.
fine. We want to educate others, but
Sure.
it is just so empowering to have space where you're like, this happened, and then like nobody's like, well, why did you, or how did this, or well,
Right.
how, or why, and so that's super uh, important. Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, there's so much, um, I resonate so much with the talking and getting it out. One way I have healed, I think a lot is through writing. That's another medium, and that's the one that I lean very heavily into with my publishing company and everything else. And to answer your original question of like, how did I find community? It has been really hard. I mean, there are very few of us. The honest answer is there are very few people who actually survive a kidnapping situation and a
Absolutely.
rescue. That's just the honest truth. And then there are very few women.
Mm,
So there are men, and that's great. I have love men, married to one,
right.
raising one. Um, and I have great male friends, but there's a different component to being a female and who's being illegally detained or being held hostage. There are
Mm.
different things to process and to be afraid of. And so for me, I realized that if I was able to get to the deeper context of my trauma around healing this generational trauma, acknowledging the societal and the cultural norms that had placed me in that situation around not trusting my intuition, not listening to my own voice, staying small, staying quiet. I was raised in the Midwest of the US in church, um, really like examining those belief systems that I had been brought up with, and how they had negatively impacted decisions that I had made as an adult. That then I was able to connect with survivors of any kind of trauma because pain is pain.
Yes,
And that's how you and I can sit and have this conversation,
sure.
even though our circumstances are wildly different.
Mm,
We've been victimized and we have decided to move from victim to survivor.
mm, yes,
And we've also decided to move forward and educate and um, encourage other survivors. And so I guess my question then for you is, and you've said it a couple of times, not everybody has to like, talk about it or share their story, but why? Why did you decide to share your story on such a massive platform?
it's a good question. It's, I always say, and like we said in the beginning, like this is a very heavy topic, but also there's points where you can kind of laugh about
A
certain
hundred percent.
aspects of it.
Yeah.
You have to get there as well. But I always say that if it, because sometimes I think that sharing any type of trauma that happens to us, at some points, like, are you seeking attention? Are you
Hmm.
spitting negative information out? Ugh,
Hmm.
that's not true. Like, we are
Hmm.
sharing information that's important that saves somebody's life.
Yeah.
Uh, Potentially. And I'm like, if I would have become a fashion blogger, I would have rather have that experience than what I
Sure.
went through. You know what?
Yes. Yes.
This is not to be bad. I would have loved that rather
Yeah.
than doing this. So, but
Yes.
here I am. And so I was like, well, this happened. And I think it kind of came organically because first I wasn't like, I also share other people's content that I find super valuable.
Hmm.
I obviously crediting them. And so I just kind of naturally felt like, okay, what if I say what happened to me? Like, what if I start sharing that? So it kind of naturally became that. And it was very freeing when I did finally put my face there because then it was like, there was some saying, like, I'm going to paraphrase this, but once I say it out loud, what happened to me, this is the things, you cannot use nothing against me anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
And I think that just kind of came about and it's been very empowering. And honestly, for a while, I was also scared, like, oh, what if people that I meet in everyday life find this page and then they think I'm this, like, this person, like, I'm talking about these terrible things. And, I went through all of this
Yes.
questioning, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? They're gonna, yeah. But I don't have that anymore, and that's fine. These are not my
Hmm.
people then. But
Right.
that kind of what drove that.
Wow. So why the name Untamed Hero?
I was very like I had a very life-changing experience with Glennon Doyle's Untamed book. When I
Ah,
read
okay.
Untamed, that my friend recommended me, I was like, wow. And I was just so empowered by, have you ever read that
Yeah.
book?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Like from the first episode, there's the
Yeah.
the cheetah right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, it just really spoke to me. And of course, by that time, I had gone through the trauma already. And so
Right.
when I read the book, and it was so, I just related to this so much. And just because,
Hmm.
just because just being untamed, just living, that doesn't mean living like you're insane. It means just
Right.
living truthfully and not making yourself small anymore ever in
Right.
your life and
Right.
building the standards. I mean, it really walks you through what it would
Hmm.
be like to be this human that
Right.
lives in their truth. And so
Yeah.
that came Untamed. And then Hero came from, there was a clip on Instagram that was from Joe Rogan back then. Okay. He was one of the first podcasters back in like
Hmm.
20, whatever. That was
Yeah.
like 1,000 years ago,
Yeah.
which seems like now. But listen, like there was this clip that was circulating all the time. And he's like, you have to become your own hero. And
Oh,
then
yeah. I
that
remember
also
that.
spoke to me.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, that makes so much sense. Because, as when I look back to my life and prior to the abuse or leading up to it, I was always looking to be saved in some ways, right? From trauma and
Hmm.
whatever on. And so that was really like, no, it's up to me and I can make this change. And then I kind of married those two, Untamed Hero, and that's kind of how it came.
Yeah. And now it's just like this big global brand.
It's been great. It's been great.
Yeah. I
And then,
mean,
we're trying to figure out the next steps and what to do, but like I just
because it's grown so big.
it's grown big, yeah. And I for a long time it was just me. Like
Yeah.
there's no like team or offices
Yeah.
of people globally just managing this. It was just me, like
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm doing my best here, and it's been like inconsistent, but like this is me, and I really am a big fan of it nowadays as well with all the AI, which there are great tools that
Uh-huh.
you get from
Uh-huh.
there, but to really, how can I be like just me and this make this normal so that we are actually, this space is something we can all grow together and grow
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
So, I mean, you mentioned this earlier. It's like a double-edged sword that, okay, you've achieved so much success on Untamed Hero, but also, it's not like it's sad, but it's like, it's alarming that so many people, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know what the demographics are of your platform, but I would imagine it's majority women.
Yes. I
Um,
would bet 85%, like
right.
probably 80
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
So I mean, that's how I connected with you. It was something I saw that I was like, damn, that's the truth. Like that
Yes.
resonates. That hits me right here.
Yeah.
Um, and I just kept coming back for more and reposting your work and it would resonate with my audience. And so, I mean, it's it's great that it resonates with so many, and then it's also so telling and sheds so much light on how much work there's left to be done.
Oh, so much. So much work. And listen, like for a while, I was also talking to many different, mainly women who were either in a relationship still or in a situation or out. whichever way. And across the world, I mean, like different countries, different
Yes.
backgrounds. Absolutely, like we had nothing in common in a way that we were brought up,
Yeah.
yet we were going through similar, very similar things. So
Mhm.
it's been sad, but
Yeah.
also I think when you mentioned that there's so much work still to be done, there really is. And sometimes you forget about it when you're in it so much because you're like, well, this is obviously like this is abuse and this is how you deal with it. And then people make comments or things, and you're like, oh, we still don't really know. Or, people are invalidating and
Yeah.
that the healing, community has gotten too much. Like there's nothing wrong with you, really. Just, power on, and you're just making, and listen, I'm sure there's always exceptions to everything, but
Sure.
the abuse, it is, I mean, I don't know. I haven't checked recent stats, but it's not good.
It's rampant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you know, I won't get political, but I feel like where we're at currently in the US, um, it feels more in our faces. It's more blatant. Than I think I feel like it's always been like a little bit taboo or a little bit hidden, you
Yeah.
know? And it feels more blatant than it's ever been, in my opinion and in my experience. Um, and it definitely feels, I sound so negative, but it feels like
Okay.
we've gone back a couple of steps from like a cultural perspective and what's received as right and wrong, even just in general like morality terms. And so how do you continue to keep going? And I'm I realize I'm being very like small-minded talking from an American perspective, and you are in Europe and you have a global audience, but I mean, how do you continue to keep showing up when it feels like progress is regressing?
I mean, I think there's no right answer to this, right? It's just like my my only opinion, my own opinion that I can share, and it's hard. And I mean, I think it's just kind of going. If you've been through an abusive situation, you feel the very same way as
Hmm.
some people may feel right now.
Hmm.
Um, and I think what kind of drove me, so this is just kind of as I'm reflecting on your question right now, is like I escaped my abuse, or I took these steps that I was really scared. I had no clue what to do, but
Yeah.
the opposite was just not an option,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's the same. Like the opposite is not an option. So like that's what they want. Or whoever that oppressor or, you know, abuser is in any situation, is that you either quit, you give up, you stop. And it doesn't mean that we all, fight the same way or move forward the same way, but what is the alternative? And that is giving up. And then what? And then, if you mentioned you have a son. Yes.
Hmm.
I have also my also
Hmm.
son. So I want to have him never give up when it's hard.
Yeah.
And get through these really difficult things. And when I say never give up, obviously we're not talking about like smaller scale things. We're talking about like the big things in life where you want to really crawl up in a hole, but just kind of be that light in some ways that you can. And you just gotta keep going because the alternative is what?
Right. But some people they don't get that. And that's what I'm truly like obsessed with.
Hmm.
And why I started this podcast in the first place is like, what made you decide you weren't going to give up? What made you decide? I mean, there are a couple of ways you haven't given up. I'm sure there are probably like hundreds of ways every day that you don't give up, which is incredible. But I'm so fascinated with the people who decide to take on the responsibility of paying it forward. Why? Like, you don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I've considered that, and that seems crazy to me personally, about
Hmm.
my situation. I'm like, then then like, not that it happened for no reason, but then like what? Like I have to,
Yeah.
this pain that happened, I have to. Like I
Right.
almost feel like I have to do it. I have to help others. I have to pay it forward, no matter what kind of way it is, whether I'm posting, whether I'm talking on a podcast, like
Hmm.
in any kind of way. There's no other way. I cannot stay silent about it, about,
Hmm.
the experience that I went through and that I've learned that so many go through. And just to kind of go back to initially why I didn't give up the first time, which is when I escaped.
Hmm.
I mean, really, it comes down to my son for sure. I don't know what it would have looked like if I didn't have him at the time.
Yeah.
And it does not mean that if you don't have kids, it's
Hmm.
impossible. That's not what I'm
Hmm.
saying. I'm just reflecting on my situation and what was my biggest factor of, okay, well, I was like, I remember being in that room, as he paced around with the gun, and I was, trying to feed my infant, and I was like, like, that's not how it ends. And I think another thing is, which I know you can definitely relate to as well, is
Hmm.
that you are not ready for these situations. There's nothing that prepares you. So
No.
everything you're really deciding, seeing, experiencing, and declaring in that moment is literally what you're figuring out at this very single moment.
Yes.
You're
Yes.
like, okay, I'm gonna do, like, I read one of your posts recently where how you started behaving when you were there to see if
Yes.
you can connect with them or have them share, but
Hmm.
it's not like you were like, oh, if in my life this happens, I'm
Yes.
gonna do, no,
Yes. Yeah.
you're in the moment. You're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? And
It's
that
just
was,
sheer survival, right?
I listen, like, I watched ID Network a crazy amount of time prior to my experience. Which
Mm.
would make sense, like, oh, you just know what you would
Hmm.
do if you were
Hmm.
in this,
Hmm.
like,
No.
you do not know.
No.
And so I just know that in that moment, I was like, this is not how, like, there's no way. And I know that if I stay with my baby, this will
Yeah.
not end well. And
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah. I so resonate with that too because I feel like in my like survival story, I got pregnant like a week after my rescue. And so my son was born less than a year after being taken. And so in a lot of ways I think of him as like a second rescue. Like I don't know if I could have shown up for my own healing if it hadn't have been for him. Like, I
Mm,
don't know if I would have survived, and
yes.
very different. I'm talking more metaphorically. You're very, like, this is very literal, in your experience, but it still like resonates with me because it's moms are incredible. We can do incredible things. And it's like that, that analogy of, or, those stories that you hear of like moms saving their babies from something and like having the strength that comes over them that they can lift a
Mm,
car. Well, think
mm,
about that from an emotional, perspective. Like you
mm.
lifted up that freaking car emotionally.
Literally.
Yeah, and you got the hell out of there so
Yeah.
you could save his life and yours.
Yes.
And then you didn't buckle. You didn't give up. You would have every right to just go into hiding and to keep your head down and to just raise your son and just have a quiet life and never tell anybody about what you've been through. But you've decided not to do that. And again, there's no shade or shame if you decide to keep your story close to your heart and not share it with anybody. Not everybody feels compelled to talk on a public platform the way we do. However, I do want to say it takes tremendous courage, and especially in your situation when, you probably were worried that your life could have been in danger a
Yeah.
second time. How did you manage through that fear?
You mean like in general, or like
Yeah, like were you
specific?
worried that he was going to come after you again? Were you worried that
Of
it was
course. I mean,
in
I think
danger?
that, like, even though I don't live with that daily, I don't think about that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever also gone,
Yes.
in those ways. Um, I think it's just time because I don't think there's a magic formula of like, this is what I do to not feel fear. It's really, again, I think just sharing my story and talking and building my life up, building myself up, nurturing my son, doing my own work is what's kind
Mhm,
of like piled on to be like, okay, I feel okay, you know?
mhm,
And then
mhm,
also, I guess there is a little bit of a decision being like, in fact, quick side story, I just posted about it the other day. I just started jujitsu again, first time in 9 years because I trained with that thing before, and there was
mhm,
a horrible situation when we
mhm.
trained together because there's a
Yep.
lot to that, but this was me reclaiming this space. Like,
Yes.
I'm done with letting him take these things from me. I
Yes.
loved this training, and now
Hmm.
I get to really enjoy it and really like not be
Yes.
controlled in this environment.
Yeah.
I get to listen to this music that I love that he tried to
Mm.
take. Like, I'm not letting
Mhm,
him take shit from me. Like,
mhm,
that's over.
mhm, mhm,
You know,
mhm.
and at the end of the day, these people really are cowards as we know it, right? I mean,
Yes.
they are
Yes.
not, because
Yes.
anybody who's actually a lion doesn't have to say they're a lion. So
Mhm.
I think that's been just accumulation of just a lot of kind of work, but also deciding that like you don't get that power anymore. Like those days are over.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, all of that so much. So what does life feel like now?
You know, it's I think when you go through something really hard, you're like, well, that's the hard thing I've had this life. Thank you everybody for this hardship, and now
That's
it's gonna be
you. You're like,
super
okay,
easy.
I've met the quota,
Yeah,
like, right? So it's
check.
going to be smooth sailing from here. And that is so not true.
Surprise. And
I, yeah.
it's been a journey. I mean, of course,
Mm,
like, and I think this has helped me to be like, when things are stressful, like whatever it is, it's life, right?
yeah.
I come back to like, boop, I'm safe. He's
Hmm.
safe. We're safe. Like,
Hmm.
am I worried about a bill or am I worried about what this person said? I don't care. Like, I survived it.
Right.
Like, I do take it back there. To me, it's been super healing and helpful.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes.
well, no, you're not gonna really ruin this for me because I don't, I've dealt with the devil, like I don't,
100%. 100. And I
I
stood up to him and I won.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge, I mean, it's huge help daily, honestly, for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been, as far as that goes, kind of, I occasionally think about it, not on a daily basis.
Hmm.
I'm more focusing on raising my son is in first grade now, and we're just doing our very best to go through that. But there's been, I think a couple years ago, there was a moment that actually first time that triggered me from this situation. Quickly, it was my friend sent it to me because where I lived in US, the jujitsu gym that we trained at together, our coach was on like a local TV giving an interview,
Hmm.
and it was about uh, a guy and a girl who trained at the gym. I did not know them. They must have joined after.
Okay.
But the guy had a son, and then he had a girlfriend who was pregnant, or fiance, and they were going to get married.
Hmm.
She was pregnant, and he killed her. He killed son, and he killed himself.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
And then I'm hearing my coach speak on this. And then what it did to me, of course, I feel like I can't even have
Yeah.
enough words what I feel horrible for that woman and her
Yeah.
unborn child. And then I was like, I had like flashbacks that this could have been me. This
Yeah.
was my coach. Like I was looking almost like my story in living
Yeah.
color from my coach telling the story from the gym. I was like, holy moly, that really like hit me. And I was like, whew.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so it's like, but also it's like these are reminders that I'm like, I got out. And
Mm.
otherwise I don't give him much time of the day anymore. And when I
Mhm,
speak of it
mhm,
now, like it doesn't phase
mhm,
me at all. And
mhm,
I'm
mhm.
just so thankful. And I'm so thankful that I listened to whatever this voice was to be like, okay, we gotta just book it. We gotta go. We gotta do this. No matter what somebody else says, this is what we're doing.
Amazing.
And it paid off.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what we don't know. And every once in a while, when we get a glimpse like that of what could have been the outcome, very, very much could have been the outcome
Yes.
of the trajectory of our lives. It's so interesting and also disconcerting when something like that happens. But also, it's a gift, right? And a reminder
Yes.
of you know, what could have been and what is now. And so, I think the point of the stories that I want to highlight on this podcast are to help people understand that it can all burn to the ground. It's all going to burn to the ground one way or another. No one escapes
Yes.
the human experience unscathed.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's just like whether it's a slow burn or it's a wildfire or, anything in between.
Yeah.
Um, what are you outside, well, outside of, I guess, in addition to, or does it have to be, what are you building from the ashes? You've built Untamed Hero. I imagine you're going to continue moving in that direction, inspiring, encouraging. You've built a community. You've got awesome merchandise for sale. There's a sweatshirt I want. Something, what does it say? Untamed Mama. I think that's the one I want. I'm gonna have to order that soon. Um, what do you hope for? What do you dream about? What are you building from these ashes?
Oh, thank you for asking. You know, there's a couple sides to it. Another thing that I do outside of Untamed Hero, which is what I do quite a bit of, I
Hmm.
started building these boot camps, fitness boot camps for women. And they were not boot camps necessarily for survivors, but that
Hmm.
has been a huge driver of how I coach and how I
Yeah.
interact with
Hmm.
people or women. And I think it's been a huge benefit of being a
Hmm.
coach.
Hmm.
And so that is something I do on a weekly basis. I have this cool crew of women that I build, and I'm a personal trainer and a group trainer,
Okay.
so we do fitness and mindset, and I love that. That's also a way of giving back and paying it forward because
Mhm.
you just have a different view on what people go through and honoring and knowing how, you know what I mean? You know
Yeah.
how this
Yeah,
is.
I do. I'm
Um,
like picturing, I mean, I'm older than you, but what's that J-Lo movie, Enough? Do you know what movie I'm talking about?
who's it? I don't remember.
It's J-Lo, and she is a victim of domestic violence.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's a million years old,
Okay,
but if it's not triggering,
I
go
have to
check
watch
it out.
it.
And then
Yeah.
she gets herself ripped. She gets shredded
Uh-huh.
because she's gonna go back in.
Yeah.
Because he takes her baby, or I think he's trying to take her baby away from her or something. And so like that's a Hollywood version of what I'm like
Yeah.
visualizing, but I can imagine like how empowering that is for survivors to just take back their health and their bodies and build strength so that they can protect themselves.
Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, it just builds confidence and this kind of untamed feeling of being enough for yourself. And it just kind of
Hmm.
changes a lot of things. It kind of pushes things in a better direction anywhere. It kind of clears your mind and gives you a
Yeah.
lot of power. And Untamed Hero, it's been because my goal was really to find a way to give back also financially somehow,
Hmm.
which I wish I could do it on my own. I don't. Unfortunately, I'm also a single, I'm a single mother. Like I'm
Yeah.
alone. I wish I could, but like the whole point of the merch was to be able to hopefully build something where we could give back and help mainly probably women at first at
Hmm.
least
Hmm.
that need it without
Hmm.
many hiccups in between, because
Yeah.
usually I mean, I know from at least American side, fill out 100 paperworks, wait for, and all the things. And so that was kind of my goal. But let's see how it's going because I also have a podcast that's been kind of sitting on it that I've been promising everybody. But listen,
Yeah.
the reality is that I just haven't been able to put it out, but it's
I
coming
mean,
because
it's
I have like
amazing.
14 episodes there, and also kind of similar to just very just in a way of normal casual talks, but about very
Mhm.
important things. And I think that's kind of um the mission there, and let's see how we go step by step. I think online also brings this like, okay, am I doing enough? I'm not posting enough as I used to, and there's like that part of this
Yeah.
world. But I've kind of released it. Like, yes, I want to build it, but I'm not here to just like, oh, I want just all these likes and follows, and then I'm happy.
Yeah.
That's not that was never the goal of this
Right.
page anyway. So kind of just continue to build that, and the podcast is next in line, and hopefully I'm able to do that, and then I would love to have you on for the second season once I record it if you
Oh, I
so
would love that.
yeah.
100%. Count me in for sure. Um, how can we best support you then? How can, if someone's listening, perhaps they're a survivor in their own right, and how can we support you?
You know, I think just as far as the Untamed Hero goes, just if you follow the account,
Hmm.
um, if you read the comments, if you respond
Hmm.
to other people's comments, I think that's
Yeah.
super helpful always.
Hmm.
Because there are people, some people, I mean, of course, people can have like not their real names on the account, but I always find it so, inspiring when somebody shares something in the comment section and other people come be like, I get it, I've been there too. And I think that
Yeah.
is what I love about Untamed Hero.
Yeah.
That's what it's always been about, and just kind of keep sharing and keep talking about it in the way that you can. And I mean,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, like I always have to just say it that like whatever it is that you're going through now, like I know it's not easy, but you need to leave or figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, um, I hope that if there's someone out there who needs mm, maybe that reminder, or they're looking for a sign that they can survive something that feels unsurvivable, somehow they find their way to this episode or to Untamed Hero, your page, or your podcast when it comes out. Um, in the meantime, just know that we are all cheering you on and want to support you in any way we possibly can, and are just so grateful that you lifted that proverbial car and you got your baby out from underneath it and you made it to the other side of freedom, because look at what you've done. It's quite amazing, and I'm grateful you're here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to How to Survive Survival. If you found something meaningful here, I'd ask for you to subscribe, share, or leave a 5-star review so these conversations can reach others who are walking their own road back. You can learn more about me and my work at www.jessicabuchanan.com. And until next time, remember, what happened to you is only part of the story. What you choose to do with it is where your power lives.